In a time of kingdoms and warriors, the fate of a nation hung in the balance. A lone shepherd boy would rise to confront a giant, defying all odds with nothing but his faith and a sling. This is the story of David and Goliath, a tale of courage, trust, and the power of the living God. In the days of King Saul, a shadow loomed over Israel, a shadow cast by their enemies, the Philistines. These fierce warriors, with their advanced weaponry and unyielding aggression, had long been a thorn in Israel's side. Yet their latest challenge struck fear into the hearts of even the bravest soldiers. Standing over 9 feet tall, Goliath of Gath was a living monument of strength and intimidation. His booming voice echoed across the valley of Elah, his taunts reducing Israel's mighty warriors to trembling silence. But in the hills of Bethlehem, far from the clamor of war, a young shepherd named David was tending his father's sheep. Unbeknownst to him, he was destined to become the answer to Israel's prayers. Through his faith and courage, a new chapter in God's plan for his people was about to unfold. The Philistines had assembled their armies at Soko, pitching their camp on the rocky slopes of Ephes Dammim, overlooking the valley of Elah. The valley stretched out like a vast stage for an epic confrontation. On the opposite hill, the Israelites formed their battle lines, their armor glinting in the sunlight. The atmosphere was tense, the anticipation palpable, as soldiers prepared for what seemed an inevitable clash. Amid the Philistines, a single figure towered above the rest, Goliath of Gath. Encased in bronze armor, he was an imposing sight. His helmet gleamed, his coat of scale armor weighed over 100 pounds, and the shaft of his spear resembled a weaver's beam, its iron head alone weighing 15 pounds. With each step, the ground seemed to quake beneath his massive frame. For 40 days, Goliath stepped forward every morning and evening, his voice a thunderous roar that echoed across the valley. "Why do you come out and line up for battle?" he mocked. "Am I not a Philistine, and are you not the servants of Saul? Choose a man and have him come down to me. If he is able to fight and kill me, we will become your subjects. But if I overcome him and kill him, you will become ours." Fear gripped the Israelite camp. The soldiers cowered, avoiding his gaze, and even King Saul, Israel's tallest and mightiest warrior, could not muster the courage to face him. Each day, Goliath's taunts grew louder, his insults cutting deeper into the morale of the Israelites. Far away in Bethlehem, Jesse, an aging man with the wisdom of many years, called his youngest son David. The boy had just returned from the fields, where he had been tending the sheep. David's sun-kissed skin, youthful vigor, and unyielding faith made him a striking figure, despite his modest stature. "Take these roasted grains, loaves of bread and cheese, to your brothers and their commander," Jesse instructed. "See how they are faring and bring back news." With obedience and eagerness, David set out early the next morning, carrying the provisions. As he approached the camp, the sound of clashing shields and distant shouts filled the air. Reaching the camp, he left the supplies with the keeper and ran to the battle lines, eager to greet his brothers. At that moment, Goliath emerged, his voice booming across the valley. David froze, his ears catching the mocking words of the Philistine. He watched as the soldiers of Israel shrank back in fear, their courage drained. Turning to the men around him, David asked, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" His question sparked murmurs. Some soldiers dismissed him, but others saw something in the boy, a spark of defiance that had long been missing among them. Word of David's boldness quickly spread, reaching the ears of King Saul. David was ushered into King Saul's tent. The young shepherd stood before the king, his youthful face contrasting sharply with the battle-worn features of the Israelite ruler. Saul's eyes scanned the boy, doubt clouding his expression. "Let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine," David began, his voice steady and sure. "Your servant will go and fight him. Saul shook his head. "You are only a boy, and he has been a warrior since his youth." But David did not waver. He recounted the stories of his encounters with lions and bears while guarding his father's sheep. "When they attacked my flock, I struck them down. The same God who delivered me from their paws will deliver me from this Philistine." Saul saw the conviction in David's eyes, a faith that was unshakable. Reluctantly, he agreed. He offered David his own armor, but the boy found it cumbersome and untested. Instead, David chose what he knew, a sling and 5 smooth stones, symbols of his trust in God. As the sun climbed higher, the valley seemed to hold its breath. Goliath stood in the center, his armor shimmering, his voice echoing with renewed vigor. "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?" he roared as David stepped forward. The giant's laughter filled the air, mocking and disdainful, but David was undeterred. His heart was calm, his spirit resolute. David knelt by the brook, his fingers searching the water for stones. He selected 5, each smooth and round, their surfaces polished by the flowing stream. With care, he placed them in his pouch, his movements deliberate. As he stood, the sling in his hand, his mind was not on the giant before him, but on the God who had delivered him time and again. He whispered a prayer, a quiet conversation with the Creator, and walked forward with steady steps. The valley fell silent as David walked forward, a lone figure against the towering form of Goliath. The Philistines jeered, their laughter ringing across the battlefield. The Israelites watched with bated breath, unable to believe that a shepherd boy could dare to face such a foe. Goliath's voice boomed once more, filled with scorn. "Come here, boy, and I will give your flesh to the birds and the wild animals." His words were venomous, meant to intimidate and humiliate. But David stood firm, his gaze unflinching. Raising his voice so all could hear, he replied, "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and I will strike you down and cut off your head. The whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. All those gathered here will see that it is not by sword or spear that the Lord saves, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give all of you into our hands." The words echoed across the valley, filled with a conviction that silenced even the jeers of the Philistines. Goliath's mocking grin faltered for a moment before he stepped forward, his massive frame casting a long shadow over the young shepherd. The earth trembled beneath his strides, but David did not waver. Instead, he reached into his pouch and retrieved one of the smooth stones. With precision born of countless hours guarding his flock, David placed the stone into his sling. He began to swing it, the leather straps cutting through the air in a rhythmic hum. His eyes never left Goliath, his heart steady as he trusted fully in the Lord. Goliath charged, his massive shield raised, his spear poised for a killing blow. The sight was enough to paralyze any man, but David stood his ground. With a final flick of his wrist, the stone flew from the sling, whistling through the air with deadly speed. The stone struck true, embedding itself into Goliath's forehead. The force of the impact brought the giant to a sudden halt. His expression shifted from arrogance to shock as his massive body wavered, then crumpled to the ground with a thunderous crash. Dust rose around him, and the valley seemed to hold its breath. For a moment, there was only silence. Then a roar erupted from the Israelite camp as they witnessed the impossible. A shepherd boy had slain the giant. David approached Goliath's fallen form, his steps purposeful. Drawing the giant's own massive sword, he raised it high and brought it down in a single decisive stroke, severing Goliath's head. He lifted it for all to see, a symbol of victory that sent the Philistines into a panicked retreat. The Israelites, emboldened by David's triumph, surged forward with a renewed battle cry. They pursued the Philistines, driving them back and securing a resounding victory. Meanwhile, David stood at the center of the battlefield, his gaze lifted toward the heavens. His heart swelled with gratitude and awe, not for his own strength, but for the power of the God who had delivered him and his people. The news of David's victory spread quickly. As the Israelites returned triumphantly, the women of the towns came out to greet them with singing and dancing. They played tambourines and lyres, their voices ringing with joy as they sang, "Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands." Saul watched as David was celebrated, the young shepherd now a hero in the eyes of the people. Though pride should have filled his heart, envy began to take root. This moment marked the beginning of a complex and fraught relationship between the king and his future successor. As the story of David and Goliath spread, it became more than just a tale of victory. It was a testament to the power of faith. David's courage inspired generations, a reminder that no obstacle is too great when one places their trust in God. David would go on to face many more challenges, but this victory became a defining moment. A glimpse of the man he was destined to become, the shepherd who would one day lead Israel as its greatest king. Distressed, as David's fame grew, Saul found himself haunted by the people's adoration for the young shepherd. The refrain of their song, "Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands," echoed in his mind like a relentless drumbeat. Restrictingly, he invited David into his court, not out of gratitude, but to keep a watchful eye on him. David served faithfully, playing the lyre to soothe the king's troubled spirit. But Saul's jealousy festered, darkening his thoughts and leading him to view David not as a loyal servant, but as a rival. David, unaware of the king's inner turmoil, remained humble. He continued to lead Saul's armies with wisdom and courage, winning victory after victory. His successes only fueled Saul's paranoia, planting the seeds of conflict that would define their relationship for years to come. In the midst of Saul's growing hostility, David found an unexpected ally, Jonathan, the king's son. The two men forged a bond deeper than friendship, their souls knit together by mutual respect and faith in God. Jonathan admired David's courage and unwavering trust in the Lord. Despite his father's increasing enmity toward David, Jonathan pledged his loyalty to his friend, even going so far as to warn him of Saul's scheme. "Whatever you want me to do, I will do for you," Jonathan assured David. Their friendship became a beacon of light in a dark and uncertain time, a testament to the power of love and loyalty amidst adversity. As Saul's envy turned to open hostility, David's life was thrust into turmoil. On more than one occasion, Saul attempted to take his life, hurling a spear at him in a fit of rage. David fled the court, leaving behind the comforts of Saul's palace to become a fugitive. He wandered the wilderness, seeking refuge in caves and desolate places. Yet, even in the face of relentless pursuit, David's faith did not falter. In the quiet solitude of the wilderness, he composed psalms that spoke of his struggles and unwavering trust in God. His words, born out of suffering, would echo through generations, offering comfort and hope to those who faced their own trials. Years later, after many battles and hardships, David ascended to the throne of Israel, fulfilling the destiny foretold by the prophet Samuel. As king, he united the tribes of Israel and brought the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem, establishing the city as the spiritual and political center of the nation. David's heart remained steadfast in his devotion to God. One night, as he sat in his palace, he reflected on the journey that had brought him there, from shepherd boy to giant slayer, from fugitive to king. It was then that the Lord spoke to him through the prophet Nathan, establishing a covenant. "Your house and your kingdom will endure forever before me. Your throne will be established forever." David's lineage would lead to the ultimate fulfillment of God's promise, the coming of the Messiah. Humbled by this revelation, David knelt in prayer, his heart overflowing with gratitude. "Who am I, sovereign Lord, and what is my family that you have brought me this far?" he whispered. David's life was a tapestry of triumph and tribulation, a story of faith and redemption that continues to inspire countless generations. As the years passed, David's story was told and retold, a source of hope and encouragement for the people of Israel. The story of David and Goliath in particular became a symbol of God's power to use the weak to overcome the mighty. Through David's victories and failures, his psalms and prayers, the message was clear. Faith in God could overcome any obstacle. David's life served as a testament to the enduring truth of God's promises, a reminder that the same God who delivered him from the hand of Goliath is with all who call upon his name.